The Trump administration dropped a bombshell about Iran and took the crisis to another level by stating that talks with Tehran may be happening now directly with the supreme leader and that he is not dead yet. On June 3rd, 2026, the White House steps in and makes it clear that the Iranian regime is not in a position of strength, but rather under pressure from within, from outside, at sea, in the economy, and even within its own political leadership. Marco Rubio reinforced this view in the United States Congress by saying that the supreme leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khamenei, is alive and increasingly involved in decision-making. At the same time, Iran has begun to accept talks about aspects of its nuclear program that it previously refused to even put on the table. Trump talks about a deal one way or another, and that's where the situation gets tense. What did Tehran try to hide? Why did Trump speak out now? How will the regime react? I'll tell you all about it in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. Trump got directly involved in the crisis to deny that the United States and Iran have stopped communicating. According to him, the talks continued in recent days, including 4 days ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, and also today. His statement came as a warning. The White House wants to show that it still controls the pace of the pressure it is applying. Trump's harshest statement was simple. It's time for Iran to make a deal, one way or another. This choice of words shows the tone of the White House. The diplomatic door remains open, but the Iranian regime does not get this opening as a reward. It receives it as a last resort after losing part of the shield it tried to build for years. Trump does not appear in this story as a cornered president. He appears as someone who kept the communication channel open while maintaining real pressure on the enemy. Marco Rubio completed the picture in the United States Senate. He explained that Iran had been trying to set up a conventional shield to protect its nuclear project. This shield would be made up of missiles, drones, launchers, military stockpiles, and a naval force capable of threatening commercial routes. The logic was simple and dangerous. Tehran wanted to reach a point where any action against its nuclear program would be too costly for the world. Trump decided to act before that protective threshold became unassailable. Operation Epic Fury fits into this context as the action that shattered part of Iran's military structure. According to Rubio, the operation strongly reduced Iran's defense industrial base, hit its missile production capacity, eroded drone production, and weakened launchers in urban areas, the ones used by the regime. He didn't put exact numbers on the table, but made it clear that the loss was big enough to change Tehran's calculations. The message is that Iran can still threaten, but it no longer threatens from the same position. The case of the Strait of Hormuz has become the most sensitive part of this standoff. Iran promised to reopen the passage after the ceasefire, but did not follow through. Rubio was direct in saying that the United States would not accept a world where Iran closes the route for everyone, effectively charges a toll, threatens those who pass, but keeps its own ships free to leave. The American response increased the daily cost for Tehran. The blockade and the seizure of sanctioned ships in the Indo-Pacific hit the regime's revenue at a time when the economy is fragile. Rubio stated that Iran is losing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue that is no longer coming in. This weighs heavily because the regime was already facing protests, high inflation, a devalued currency, and difficulty sustaining its own state apparatus. Military pressure turned into economic pressure, and economic pressure turned into internal political wear and tear. The detail about Mojtaba Khamenei also changes how the crisis is interpreted. For days, there were various reports about his real condition, his whereabouts, and his level of control. Rubio said that he is alive and increasingly involved. Trump takes this moment to crush the narrative that Washington would be begging for a deal. The American left tried to push this version during the Senate hearing, but Rubio responded that no one in the United States is begging. The one who feels the direct impact is Iran, with military losses, a drop in revenue, expensive reconstruction, and internal pressure. That was the political turning point of the hearing. The Trump administration is not trying to salvage weak talks. It is testing how far Tehran is willing to back down after losing strength. The difference between negotiation and surrender to pressure needs to be clear. Trump is not offering broad relief just for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. The reopening of the passage appears as an initial condition, not as a final reward. After that, more specific negotiations about the nuclear program would follow, with technical topics, clear limits, and demands that the regime previously rejected. The White House wants to take them from Tehran. The ability to use the sea as blackmail and the nuclear program as political protection. Iran is still trying to maintain the appearance of resistance. Iranian officials talk about ending talks, deny details, and try to show that they are not giving in. But the regime's real position becomes more fragile when the pressure itself forces Tehran to respond through intermediaries and to discuss topics that were previously off limits. The Iranian machine takes days to respond. According to Rubio, because there is internal division between the political wing that sees the economic collapse and the harder sectors linked to the military and religious apparatus. This division is one of the greatest weaknesses revealed by Trump and Rubio. If it depended only on Iranian politicians who have to deal with inflation, restless streets, and public accounts, the agreement could come through more quickly. The problem lies in the regime's more hardline factions, which want to maintain a confrontational stance even with the navy hit, revenues blocked, and military infrastructure damaged. This is exactly the split Trump is forcing. Either Tehran agrees to negotiate seriously, or it will have to sustain a crisis that consumes money, stability, and power. The international impact also works against Iran. In practice, no major power wants the Strait of Hormuz closed. China, Russia, Europe, the energy market and exporters depend on open routes. This leaves Tehran isolated on an issue that affects a lot of people's wallets. Trump understood this point and left Iran facing a cost that grows every day. The White House is now working on two fronts at the same time. The first is to maintain the blockade and economic pressure. The second is to explore more far-reaching nuclear talks without repeating loose agreements that allowed the regime to buy time. Trump wants an outcome acceptable to the United States. For the Senate, this means that a simple Iranian promise is not enough. The regime will have to deliver something verifiable. The next step depends on the actual opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the response of the Iranian command to the American terms. If Tehran opens the passage, the talks can move forward to specific points of the nuclear program. If it continues to close the route or use threats against commercial ships, American pressure is likely to continue at sea, with sanctions and with military containment. Trump has already warned that the deal needs to happen one way or another, and this statement serves as the center of the crisis. I'm Milson Alves, global and international relations specialist, and my purpose is to keep you accurately informed every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.